Hello there, and welcome back to F1 Manager and, well, the girls' save. So we did get a female world champion with Contreras, but unfortunately Red Bull did beat us to the punch. So what we're going to do today is continue this save. We're basically going to try and get the car set up, see how we perform against other teams, and then we'll probably try and condense the rest of this season into maybe 3 or 4 parts at most. So that's going to be the goal. Of course, if we get more competition, we're going to be showing things in a bit wider bit more, but we'll probably try and get a little bit of a quick end to this series. So I believe that what we came to a consensus here was that we are going to be keeping Contreras. She's going to be given a chance to defend her title, and Nyman here is unfortunately going to be getting the short straw, and we're going to be giving Sano a chance to take control over her car. Now, I have been told that I should use compare drivers, and honestly, it is a tool that I kind of forget exists, so it's not wrong. But as you can see, if we compare Sano to Nyman, cornering, braking is higher, does lack control, way more smoothness, less adaptability, equal overtaking, better defending, better reactions, but far less accuracy. So this accuracy stat could come out to a pretty... It could come back and bite us in the ass. Basically, this is the main concern. The control stat is also a bit concerning, but generally we'll be seeing Sano have a better race pace, way better tire wear, and as a result could potentially be a better signing, although she would be more error prone. So contract is renewed. I got this sorted pretty early last season. I probably should have waited until now to actually get it properly sorted. So we'll be switching them around a little bit closer into the first race. But that is the plan. We're going to allow Contreras to try and defend a title. We are going to give Sano a chance to prove that she has what it takes. And we'll be trying to develop a car here that is hopefully good enough that, well, we dominate, which is kind of a weird thing to say. So the driver championship is our first target. Apparently our new season target is second since we finished second. So yeah, I don't mind this. Long-term objective is to win. We have 2 seasons remaining. We can accept that. I was a little bit worried that, maybe they would be upset, but honestly, it's not a big deal. We got it sorted. Race hospitality, we'll turn that down to 5. We'll try and turn, again, all of these as far down as we can. Driver development is poor, so I think we're going to give that to Contreras this season. Race through every weekend appearance. Get down to 5. And I don't think I can give it to Car 2 because Car 2 with Sano is going to have a very low control rating to begin with. But yeah, a lot of these things are not good for you. We're also going to maximize merchandising. We're going to be selling those caps for, $200 like they do, which is, not the greatest, but it is what we will do for most sponsorship money. 2027 overview, we want to get second or above. We want to be Constructors champions long term. Financially, we're looking good. Technical, let's have a look at how we actually did in terms of our research. We kept the airflow basically around the same level with a slight increase on our suspension. More brake cooling, more cornering, and more drag reduction should make our car quite a lot quicker. Underfloor, good cornering. We did lose some airflow sensitivity, so we're going to be bad at following. We're going to be generally also bad in the wet with this because the lower your airflow sensitivity, the harder you're going to have to... The harder time you're going to have to follow the car in front and overtake without DRS. So, again, this does affect rain races in particular. Side pods, again, pretty decent here. Basically, just barely kept up with the front. Middle, a bit more of a gain. And the engine cooling here. Very nice to see along with drag reduction. Rear wing, again, the airflow sensitivity this season is going to be a little bit harsh, but we have gains across the board. Front wing, again, airflow sensitivity lost, but we did gain cornering ability. We've also gotten more brake cooling. And the chassis here, got the cooling back, got some airflow. Generally, we'll be getting a lot of our top speed, a lot higher top speed than we had last season, I believe. Financially, we don't really worry about that. We have 144 million to our name, so we're not actually concerned. And everything else is as it was. I think we're just going to stick with Red Bull. It is the one that I'm most comfortable with, so there's no real big deal there. But as mentioned before, Ferrari, Renault, Red Bull, all of them are fairly equal. Mercedes is slightly worse, but it's really, really slight, so you can't really go wrong with any of the engine developers. Okay, internal car report. So this is our current internal car report. This is our 26 performance with our current 27 performance. And the main thing you'll see is that we've lost some cornering ability due to slide is being reset, and our brake cooling is up to potentially 85%. So that is good. Pit crew performance seems like they've kind of stayed where they are, which is interesting. So I guess it's because we had the old school pit crew system still in this save. So that is good. Again, the pit crew on this save is not representative of the pit crew currently. This save is very old. And we actually got a smoothness point there for Contreras, which is amazing. It's kind of what we need. ATR stars today, we've been allocated. We're going to get a little bit more this season because we finished second. That is good. But with that, let's just get the car developed. And we do this kind of the same every season. It shouldn't come as a big surprise if we put CFD and wind tunnel hours into the underfloor. It's just the best investment, particularly early season. Now, I'd have to take a look at the other piece to figure out what would be the absolute best way of investment, but we're just going to do it like this. It is just the easiest, and we'll be focusing, I think, this season a little bit more on top speed as well, because I don't think we're going to need a whole lot of cornering ability. We're going to rush this with 6 engineers so we can get it done quick. We want to have a completely new car by Bahrain. Next up, we're going to go with the chassis. We're going to get that done quick. Basically, we do the wings last. We do everything else before that. And the chassis is pretty straightforward. We want to maximize cooling. I think we can actually get away with not maximizing cooling here. We already have very high cooling at 76%. So there's no problem losing 5% here for extra performance. Honestly, it's actually better to lose performance for more cooling. Sorry, lose cooling for performance. So that is just fine. We're going to rush this one as well. 20 days is fine. Get that underway. And let's get the side pod started. And kind of here we have the same kind of dilemma where we can actually sacrifice, again, cooling for performance. And it wouldn't be a terrible idea to do so. This would bring our cooling down to about 66-65%. And that is fine. Having 65% cooling on your car over the course of the season is acceptable. You might need to buy, a couple of ERSs, one for each car, an extra gearbox or two. But generally, unless you have a ton of crashes, which of course is going to mess up your car anyway, so you're probably going to have to buy extra engines from that, you'll generally not need an extra engine. So this should be fine with just 65%. I am not worried at all. We're also going to go ahead and rush this for 6 engineers, get done in 16 days. And lastly, we are going to get the suspension set up. And again, do kind of the same that we did with the others. We could, honestly, sacrifice a bit of brake cooling here, potentially. Sacrificing 3.5% brake cooling when we're over 80% is absolutely fine. So we could do that. What I am considering otherwise is should we sacrifice some medium speed cornering? And I think that is acceptable too. So this is what we're going to go with. As you can see, this is actually a big upgrade compared to our current suspension. That is basically due to the fact that we're kind of already reaching the ceiling and we're getting diminishing returns. So that is just how it be. We're going to also move a couple of engineers over from this project to the suspension, just to speed that up a little bit. So there we go. First set of pieces should be done about 20 days in, 21 days. And then we'll get a second underfloor with CFD time and a front wing and rear wing underway. So that should be fine. Let's just have a quick look here if we can actually go ahead and switch our drivers around. But what I think is going to happen is that they recently had a new contract. Yeah, we could renew it already. So let's just double check it. I believe it's car 2. I just like to double check to be on the safe side. And that it is. So we're going to go ahead and put her in car 2. Give her a 3-season contract. Pay her 3 million, 4 million. I don't know how much it would like. But it would be acceptable. So let's do 250. Probably on the cheaper side, to be fair. That shouldn't really be a big deal. So let's go ahead, offer this contract immediately. Make sure that we have this one. And we'll see what she says. We are, of course, going to have to find a new reserve. But I have a feeling that we might just get Nyman in the scene instead. So that could work. We now have Sano as a second seat driver. And the main concern that I have with her is, as I mentioned, the accuracy mainly. So we could put her on something that helps with both control and accuracy as well as smoothness, which wouldn't be a terrible idea. Honestly, again, the pace stats aren't the worst. And smoothness is actually a really important pace stat in the current game. So wet track here is actually pretty fine. Most of the points are probably going to go into that ability just to annoy me. But it should be okay. Now let's see here. We could get Schumacher as a reserve, which would honestly be interesting. Let's see. Do we have any other good options here? Danny Rick. Mini. Pont. Let's see. Are you interested in a reserve driver contract? Because again, we could just sign her, but we have probably also other talents that would be good with the race. Again, I think we're just going to do one season, so if we do any more than that, it's just going to be me having fun for the most part. You were lacking pace stats, but yeah, unfortunately there. Let's see. Melanie, have we actually scouted you? We have not. You're only 18 years old though, so can't really sign you up as a reserve anyways, but 18-year-old with 56 overall. It's not terrible. Let's see here. You were the one that I was somewhat interested in. Could propose a reserve contract. Wouldn't be a terrible idea. Leah Taylor. Really gives you that I was super interested in, now I think about it. Pretty well balanced, so yeah, we could pick her up as the reserve driver. Give her a 2-season contract. I think that would be fine. And that should be our driver issue sorted. This is probably a bit more of a, paying a little bit too much. Let's put it like that. But honestly, at this point, we have so much money that spending a little bit extra is not a terrible idea. So she's lacking reactions, smoothness. Again, after that ability, I'm not too worried about this. But reactions and smoothness for the most part. So let's see if we can find something that deals with both of this. And long run pace will do it. So we'll just go ahead and pick that. That is fine. But yeah, I think with that, we are happy with our current situation. We are going to set up pit crew training. And as I mentioned, this is basically the old system, which is why the pit crew didn't really degrade over winter. So I'm going to get this sorted quick. But at this stage, we're going to have a very, very good pit crew, which is going to make this job a lot easier. So I'm going to get this set up, get it prepped, and we'll see how the first 4 new car pieces actually stack up. But honestly, before that, we should probably see how the current car that we have actually stacks up against the rest of the grid. So as I said, I'm going to get the pit crew training here out of the way, and then we'll have a look at that. So here we have the pit crew sorted. Chance of mistake, estimated pit stop time has been lowered quite a bit. We're basically keeping the current pit stop time, losing a bit of car building, but we are basically bringing it to the limit here. So pit crew again is not going to be a big issue for this season. But yeah, I wanted to have a quick look at the analytics here for how our car currently stacks up against the rest of the grid. And you can kind of see just how powerful of a position we're in. This is our car before we've done anything to it. And I did mention last time around that it's very easy to make a dominant car after the regulation change. And the main reason for this is, again, that the AI is just terrible at handling development. Hopefully, one of the things we get that's going to be better today, later today at least, there is going to be a stream where they're going to go through a new team. So hopefully I'll be having something out on that tomorrow. Depends on how much information we're actually given. But yeah, back to this. Car is pretty dominant if we compare it to the Red Bull, who, came second last year. You can kind of see here that they're lacking in cornering. They're good at top speed. But generally here, we already have a significant advantage when we are facing off against the Red Bull. So it's going to be very interesting to see just how good our Bahrain, how well we perform at Bahrain. Let's put it like that. Okay. So I spoke to the board. We're rather concerned about your team's recent poor performance. The success of the team on race weekend is, of course, one of our primary ways of evaluating me as a team principal. And can we expect better results at the next GP? Unless we crash out. But yeah, the board here, I've never seen this one before, which is kind of telling on how things usually go. But yeah, race performance, there are a few disappointed here because we did have a bunch of bad results at the end of the season. We had some crashes, which threw away a bunch of points, and generally just things that, didn't go our way. That is just how things be. Let's see here. We have Verstappen and Norris at Red Bull. That's scary. Same as last year, but again, it's just scary. Bottas, Gasly, Russell, Leclerc. We have Albon and Porsche. Porsche's development has gone well, almost caught up to Albon. Stroll is now 90 rated, Piastri is 87, so he is getting up there for what his potential is. Sargent, unfortunately, hasn't developed as well. He's 82, equal to Magnussen. And Behrman, De Vries, and Haas. Olsen and Tsunoda and Alpha. Ocon, Magnussen. Merck, Williams, Sargent, Guanyu Show. But yeah, nothing too surprising here, I think. I think it's still acceptable. Yeah, as I said, we're going to get the first pieces made here. Again, the underfloor should be pretty straightforward. We just make another one, then we're going to make front wing, rear wing. And it might be that we just need to make that this year. Because again, our expertise level is just so high up there that that might just straight up be enough. Side pod design has been completed. And with that, we are going to go ahead and start the front wing design. It takes slightly longer than the rear wing, so let's get that underway. And here we are, of course, going to focus mainly the cornering ability. As for sensitivity, we're going to sacrifice that. It's just something that I, feel like doing. And we have a choice here. Do we want to increase brake cooling, lose brake cooling? And honestly, losing brake cooling here isn't a terrible idea. It's actually very much a good idea, I feel. We're also going to go ahead and turn up the... Actually, we don't need to. We can just make a bunch of extra front wings. But turning up a couple of notches just so you get a little bit extra lifespan is fine. So we're going to do this. We'll lose a little bit extra dirty air. We'll lose a bit high speed. But honestly, 60% is already good. Like, I'm not concerned. Now, we're just going to go ahead and use engineers. Or I think we'll just rush it. And then we'll use engineers on the rear wing. We just need to get 2 front wings made before Sakir. So let's do that. We have a little bit extra leeway. Yeah, let's go ahead and manufacture the side pods. It'll take us 21 days to make 3, which should be fine for the first GP. With that, we can jump to the next upgrade, which is the underfloor. And again, we aren't actually going to be using this underfloor. We're going to be making one that's even better with because we use safety time. Just turn everything to the right, the other 2 to the left. And you can see here, we're getting some stats. It's not a ton. Let's be honest, this is not a lot of stats, all things considered. We've seen bigger gains on the underfloor, which again just tells us that we are pretty high up there when it comes to how high our expertise actually is. So it's a bit of an interesting situation, but one that should be fine. We're going to rush it in 19 days, mainly so we have plenty of time to manufacture it if we need to. And I'm happy with that. Chassis, we're just going to manufacture right away, and we'll do the same as we did with the side pods. Just get 3 of them made immediately. And at the same time, we'll get the final design going on the rear wing. And again, I'm very uncertain if we want to invest into anything more now in terms of our car, because our car is already really, really good. We probably won't need to invest into anything else, but probably, if anything, chassis, side pods are the ones that we have a little bit more gain on. So I could see us maybe focusing a little bit more on those, just so we do have... that's probably where we can find a little bit more performance. So with that in mind, suspension here, basically the final piece of puzzle. Get 3 of those made. And as I said, in terms of development here, we're probably going to focus on the chassis. In terms of design, focus on probably upping the drag reduction and airflow, more so than anything else. And we're also going to keep on just doing them normally to get the expertise. Now, we could, of course, run them on intense for more gain. That's also going to be exponentially more expensive, which is going to be a bit of an issue. But yeah, currently, I think it is looking good. So let's just speed along here. The first race in Bahrain. I'm worried for our opponents, because I think this car is going to be an absolute monster, unfortunately. So this is also kind of what I expected. We could get, deadlines. We're going to go ahead and pay overtime, because we can. It's not a big deal. But yeah, going to get the next pieces made. Melanie Algar. I was curious. Decent smoothness. High adaptability, though. Lacking accuracy and reactions, as well as cornering. Could probably be developed, to be fair, at just 18 years old. So, looking forward to seeing how she develops. Again, one of the things that I do, this do annoy me, is that we just don't have any way to influence development until, they're basically through their development phase, which is very, very unfortunate. Smoothness and accuracy for Sano. That's great. That's great. Yeah, accuracy is what we wanted. And accuracy as well for Contreras. So pretty good there. I'm going to set a pit crew. We'll see. I'll get the pieces made, and then we'll see how the car stacks up come Bahrain. So this is what we're going to do this month in terms of our pit crew. We're going to lose a little bit of the pit stop progress, but we are going to keep our pit stop times not too high. We're going to get the car building up again. Again, I just want big number go up. So I'm happy with this. Our pit stops doesn't need to be perfect. So that should be pretty much a-okay. Now, we're going to get the underfloor in about a week. But yeah, basically at this point, what we're going to do is get the design for the underfloor done, get the design for the front and the rear wings done, and then get them manufactured. And that should be pretty straightforward. Unfortunately, we're not going to have an extra underfloor for Secure itself, or Bahrain, but that shouldn't be much of a big deal. In 1 day and 4 days, we're going to be getting manufacturing slots available for front wing and rear wing. That should be fine. And as mentioned, I do want to focus a little bit on the side pods and the chassis this year, and maybe even the rear wings cornering ability in terms of what we're going to be focusing on developing. So we're going to go ahead and do this. And again, we're going to do this probably 3 or 4 times before we make a piece that we actually put on the car. And we'll see if we actually end up getting any extra performance out of it. Because again, we are getting very, very close to, as I mentioned earlier, the kind of ceiling for how quick our car can be with expertise. And again, one of the real big strengths of kind of research. Rear wing, we're going to go ahead and manufacture that immediately. Pretty straightforward here. We can just make 4 immediately. It's not really a big deal. And I think also we're going to go ahead and start another rear wing project. And as I mentioned, we might go ahead and try and focus a little bit also on the cornering ability of the rear wing. Start developing something like this. Again, the dirty air tolerance isn't a big deal. As long as you're over 60%, you'll be very, very happy. Over 50% is perfectly acceptable. So again, I'm perfectly fine with sacrificing some of it for basically more pace. So it's not a big deal to me personally. Next up here, we have the front wing, and I do believe that we do have manufacturing slots for it. And we actually are going to get 3 of them ready for Secure, but we're just going to go ahead and make 6 of them immediately. And for the final design slot here, I'm a little bit unsure what we actually want to invest in, because as you see, drag reduction is around 80%. These are also fairly high. High speed here is at 81%. This one is also at 80. This one's also at 80%. This one's actually 81. This one's 80 and a half, 80 and a half, 81, 80 and a half, 81. So we're basically 81% across the board. And that is from the starting point. Like, we can increase the expertise like this. So yeah, we have very high expertise ceilings to begin with. Suspension's basically the same here. A little bit lacking in the airflow front. So what we could actually do here is keep on working on the suspension too a little bit. And I think that's fine. Side pod, chassis, suspension, and rear wing are going to be our goals for further design over the course of this season. And we'll see how far we can actually, you know, kind of get them. But what's going to happen next year? Well, we're going to be heading into the next season. We have that chassis design, the first one. We're not going to use this chassis, remember. We're just doing it to develop the car. And we're going to go ahead and make another one right away. Drag reduction and cornering ability. While we sacrifice lifespan. And you can actually see it. We're actually kind of low on the airflow and on the drag reduction for the chassis. So it does actually have a little bit to go on. And could potentially actually become a pretty decent upgrade over the course of this year. Now, I am clicking fairly quick here through this, because there isn't really too much to it. The reason why I say we had expertise there on the chassis is because it said 67 and 63%, 73, something around there. And generally, up until 80, you're not going to have a huge amount of slowdown. Now, this is kind of a problem. The fact that we have a factory fire here. Factory shut down for 14 days. Manufacturing projects paused for 14 days. So we're not going to be able to get all of these parts done in time then. But we have no choice. We're going to just have to approve it. And in our warehouse, we do have a lot of the parts already done. But because we're on race day, it's actually not actually a problem. We got everything that we wanted to finish finished before race day 1. So with that in mind, I'm actually not concerned at all. It's actually perfect if we were going to get that event. This is basically the perfect time to get it. The only time that would be more perfect is if we got it after we finished every single piece. But yeah, that's not terrible, as you can see. We've gotten our underfloors, we've gotten our front wings, so we have a little bit to go on. Now, what we're going to do now is just have a look at the analytics, and we have not been moved away from that first place. The only thing is the cooling. So this is going to be looking pretty nasty now that we are installing these new parts. Our car is just going to become even quicker. And I'm wondering just how much we're going to be looking at in terms of our difference to the Red Bull once everything has been made. So let's take a look at that. And now we're at 325.5, 85% here, 2.842, 3.820, 5.2 blank. We did lose a lot of dirty air tolerance. We did lose a little bit of cooling here. But again, these numbers are far more than we need. So it's not a big deal. Back to first place. But honestly, what I'm looking at here is going to be us compared to the Red Bull. And judging by the no change in weight, they might not actually have gotten any new pieces on the car, which would be weird. But at the same time, this is a massive, massive, massive advantage in both of these cornering. We have 0.200 cornering advantage for the most part. Top speed advantage is also more than 2 kph. DRS advantage, the only thing they beat us in is dirty air, and slightly in the engine cooling department. So yeah, I am pretty confident that we're going to have a pretty amazing season. But yeah, I am going to go ahead and get practice and quali done. We might have a look at the end of quali and just see just how big the gap is. But we'll see how Contreras and Sano do here at Bahrain. If we have an incredibly dominant car, and then we'll try and do maybe 2 or 3 more races for today. I'll see how much I have time for before the my team stream begins. I believe it's a small stream today, so we'll see how much they actually do reveal. But yeah, jumping into the Bahrain Grand Prix, let's see how it goes. So the season here starts off on a good one. We have Contreras pulling off a classic spin within the first 8 corners. So this could get very, very interesting. But yeah, we have both Sano and Contreras on the track about to do their first flyer. So let's take a look here a little bit about what, well, they said in terms of lap times. We even have Verstappen here about to set his own little flyer. Again, it's Q1, it's very early. But 29, 271, 41 hundredths behind. And I am a little bit curious here how Verstappen is going to do. I would love to see his timings, but we're going to have to go into the data view for that. But yeah, that is a pretty quick lap. I want to have a quick look here. What is actually the circuit fastest lap ever? A 1:31.0. So we're 2 seconds quicker, basically, than that. Almost 1.8 seconds quicker than that already on our first try. So race bank, we could probably break every single record this season. And Verstappen is just about to finish his flyer. He's 8 tenths behind us here. But again, not really super representative. It is Q1. We'll take a look at the gap a little bit closer once we get to Q3. So here we are in Q3. We just sent out Sano and Contreras for the outlap. A little bit close to Russell here, but it shouldn't be too bad. Verstappen is going to have show. Norris the same. Going to be a little of a potential problem for them, so it's fine. But we have sent them out now on their final lap. Purple and green sectors for both of them. A little bit slower than in Q1 here at 29.4 for the time being. But we'll have to see how well we do if we improve. Norris here, Russell, they aren't really that far behind, but Contreras set a 28.9 and Sano half a second slower for the yellow in sector 2. So they'd probably send her out a little bit too close to Russell, or just the accuracy and just general consistency wasn't to be found. But Contreras there, half a second ahead of Verstappen, is generally what we can expect now on runs that we have built up confidence on. But these two, we did just one run, and as you can see, Sano had our best run in Q1. But yeah, looks like we're going to have for the time being at least, a very dominating season, but we'll have to see exactly what kind of upgrades the AI does bring, and if they put in anything that would be, you know, a little bit more interesting. Again, Bahrain here, pretty simple to set up for. We just use the soft tires for the most part. We could run them standard. It's fine. But we need to keep in mind that Contreras has terrible degradation. So we're going to put her on this. Now, for Sano, she has basically average degradation at 77 smoothness. So she should have no problem running this in the standard. And generally, she will be faster just purely, you know, smoothness versus smoothness. We'll have to see how it turns out in terms of full race pace. So we'll put both of them on the same strategy. Shouldn't really be a big deal here. And we will get going immediately.
Here and secure the front. And this is it.
So soft tyres for both the McLaren and the Red Bull. That's going to potentially allow them to keep up with us because, again, Bahrain and tyres are the soft tyres have a pretty high advantage over anything else. So with them using soft tyres, they could potentially cause a bit of problems there, like Sano losing out to Albon. It's not that big of a surprise. It is better tyres. Our car is a lot better, but if we again just take a quick look here at the soft tyres versus mediums, that's an 8/10 difference. So basically, for the first few laps here, the Red Bull and the McLaren are going to hold, as mentioned, a pretty significant advantage, but that advantage is going to wane. And once we get on our soft tyres versus their medium, we're going to have no problem just driving directly past them. You can even see that Sano has no real problem keeping up, even in the situation where she is running the worst compound. So, again, looking forward to seeing how the other teams do develop. That's basically what's going to decide if this is going to be a walkover or not. But this is probably the season where we can't actually mess up having champions. It's just going to be the consistency of the second driver. Now, Norris is down in 7th, so Red Bull currently doesn't have the greatest consistency either. But Sano is getting ready here to overtake Albon. Should be no problem now in the straight. Actually, a little bit of a problem, so yeah, being held up there. The soft tyres are strong, so it is a little bit of an issue. It's a little bit harder to overtake than I anticipated, but it's okay. Now, with that said, for the time being, we're just going to, again, just sit back, relax, wait for the first pit stop. It is basically just the best thing to do at this point. And once that first pit stop comes, that's when we can start making some moves. So let's see if we can keep this up until the first pit stop. I think Sano is going to be overtaking Albon by then. His tires are going to be giving up pretty quickly. There we go. Overtake complete. So yeah, let's speed along to the first pit stop, see if we can create a gap between Sano and Albon. We have had our first team incident in the race, and it's actually Contreras. And this is incredibly upsetting, the fact that everyone is just allowed to drive past her. But already in our first race, we're going to have a little bit of a challenge here with Contreras going from first place to 23 seconds behind. So yeah, that is a little bit frustrating, but let's face it, there's nothing much we can do about that. That corner in particular, they do like to just sit and wait. Now I have run fuel a little bit longer than intended, and that is a-okay. But yeah, this is gonna make it a little bit more difficult for Contreras, but honestly, we're just gonna run these tires into the absolute ground. Then we'll work it from there. Currently, though, the other cars here on the grid are quicker than Contreras, so yeah, it is a bit of a worrisome situation, but we'll do our best here to make a bit of a comeback. Once we do pit onto better tires, it's gonna be, you know, a bit of a better situation. But I'd like for her to try and overtake the two Alfa Romeos and maybe even Debris before that to rebuild some of that broken confidence. Because as I mentioned, with lower rated drivers, confidence can be a huge, huge bonus. We've had our first incident between Magnussen and his former employer. And it's a slight touch where the front wing goes bye-bye. Unfortunately for him, though, he ended up with the short end of the stick and is now pretty far behind in the grand scheme of things. That is a bit unfortunate, but nothing really, you know, too big. Unfortunately, Contreras hasn't really been able to get a proper attack launched, and we are running out of tires. So it is a bit unfortunate, but at this point, we are going to struggle to get an overtake done. But as mentioned, I would like to get at least one done, so we can get a little bit of that confidence back. So we're going to deploy energy. Even then, the defense here is pretty good from Lawson. Yeah, I think we are going to do this lap, and then we shall pit onto soft tire. And at the very least, we should be able to jump the Alphas and the Rees, no problem. Might actually just go ahead and pit this lap, I think. I think that might be for the better. So we're going to go ahead and do just that. Put her to light as we go into the last corner. And let's see if she also hits that 3% chance of a pit stop error. Because that would be an amazing start to the season. No, 2.3 stop. 2.4 seconds really, with that sort of gap. But yeah, out 13 seconds behind Magnussen, and a good 20 seconds behind Lawson. So we'll have to see if she can keep this up, get ourselves up into a better situation pace-wise. But Sano's doing well. She's running with Verstappen only at the moment. And we could probably create a slow down, harvest a little bit, and then potentially break away from him. But he's still doing well, so I think that's going to be a little bit more difficult. As mentioned here, degradation for Sano is actually very acceptable, along with what we expect. And that's generally what I believe this graph is made for. 80 smoothness is basically what this is for. So if you have less, you need to take that into account. But so far, it's looking really, really good. And remember, Verstappen is on arguably the better tire. So once we end up pitting, we are going to have an advantage until the end of the race, as they're still going to have to run medium as well. So Ocon does pit. It's going to be a little bit harder to deal with, though. And Contreras currently is running 35.5, so 2 seconds quicker than Sano at the moment, a second quicker than Verstappen. And with that in mind, she should be slowly but surely at least making up some places. You can kind of see it there with us coming out ahead of Tsunoda by almost 5 seconds. So we're probably not going to be jumping Gasly, Leclerc, and Stroll, but it is going to help us getting back into the fight somewhat. But the lack of confidence is definitely going to be kind of soul-crushing here, unfortunately. Fasano will do one more lap and then pit, and then she should be fine with getting things done, although that looked a little bit worrisome. Verstappen ran wide. Luckily it wasn't us, although it did kind of give us the jitters, a little bit of concern there. Yeah, we're going to get Sano in, and that should be okay. Contreras is jumping some cars here. Magnussen, did he just pit? Nope. We have caught up with him. So again, getting the confidence back up from low. Bit of a priority. But Sano should be pitting any second now. Let's see how this goes. We also have Norris and Pocher pitting. 2.4 seconds. Comes out in 6th with a bunch of free air. So everything is going according to plan. But yeah, I'm a little bit worried here at Contreras' lack of overtakes, particularly against Magnussen. Even if we are running the tires in more of a conservative setup, we should have no problem getting the overtake done. And again, could just be the fact that the confidence took a lot of beating. But yeah, this is as mentioned a tad concerning that we are struggling this much with just getting an overtake done. So maybe, just maybe, we'll have a little bit more fighting this year than I anticipated. But there we go. We have Magnussen just pitting. That gets him out of the way. But currently here, Sano has Verstappen again on her tail. So what I would like to do here, with Verstappen actually coming out in another set of soft tires. Well, he picked up a couple of used set of soft tires, but even then, guess we could just run with him to make life easier, and I've actually pulled her down to a level below where she was supposed to be. But yeah, I'll be working getting Contreras forwards, and we'll see where we stand once we get to the next pit stop. But you can already see we're suffering higher degradation than anticipated. So we're currently approaching Contreras' pit window, and she's going to be pitting on this lap. We've actually gone ahead and forced these soft tires a little bit further than really necessary, and that is because we've been able to battle with this train, and through that battling we have brought the confidence a little bit higher up. Also, since we're expecting higher deg, we'll be able to have a little bit to attack with at the end of this stint, as we are pitting alongside 3 other cars. We're going to go down to 16th, and as you can see, a lot of these cars have already pitted, so we do have quite a bit of work ahead of us because of that. But nothing that can really stop us in terms of our current pace. We are 54 seconds behind Sano and Verstappen. But as you can see, Red Bulls here do a bit of a double stack. And with that, we're going to go ahead and have Sano just go ahead and push. She has created a bit of a gap to Verstappen. And Verstappen actually came out behind Show. So currently she's looking really, really good. Probably on for a race win in her first race of the season. Contreras, however, it's not really having a lot of pace. That's the best way I can describe it. Has been kind of slow, unfortunately. And again, it's mainly due to the fact that we have been suffering so much in terms of the confidence for so long that we haven't been able to build that back up. But you can kind of see here, 33.5. We have 35.4s, 36s. So we are closing down the cars ahead. But again, a lot of these cars already have new tires that are just 15 laps to go. And if we estimate that we can get like a second on the lap, potentially we could get up into the points. How high up into the points, though, that's difficult to say, really. But Gasly is going to have to pit again. Russell is probably fine. Gasly and Sargent going to have to pit. So potentially, yeah, we could climb at least back into the points. Probably not as high as we'd like. but at least into a decent enough position. So with that, we're going to go ahead and pit Sano on this lap. We're going to put her down to standard, and even that should be more than enough here. That she'll be able to kind of coast us to the end of the race. Shouldn't really be a big deal. We could also slow her down a little bit if we really wish to, but for Contreras, we're also going to go ahead and conserve a little bit of fuel because we pushed a little bit further. Wanted to see if it seemed to have any positive effects. So far, I haven't really seen any. So I'm not too worried about the fuel. We'll be able to get that back. But again, the question here is just a very, very simple. How far up the grid can Contreras get before we get to the end of this race? So we'll try and move it forwards. Let's see how well we do that. We're getting very close to the end of the season opener here, with Sano having created a bit of a 20-second gap to Verstappen. Contreras is up in 10th, but we're currently pushing a little bit here in order to try and get her even further up the order. And for Sano now, rather than Contreras, we're going to have her try and get fastest lap and try and break the fastest lap record. But yeah, Contreras not really had a good race, been very limited by low confidence, unsurprisingly. And even then, I wouldn't argue we're too far behind Verstappen, 10 seconds. And remember, we get booted down to 20 seconds behind, plus the fact that we did have a bit of damage. So all things taken into consideration, it's not terrible, but you can kind of see it again here, running a bit wide, and problems like that have been a bit of an issue. Sano there with a bit of a lockup as well, but honestly, not a big deal. We did get fastest lap. Let's see here, 30.7, so we did set a new lap record. It's not massive, but it is good enough as Contreras does another overtake. So yeah, we might be able to get her up ahead of Behrman, but even then, it's not going to be great. The DRS is actually kind of hard to overtake with for us. So the lack that we do have, which is of course dirty air ability, have potentially come back here to bite us in the arse, and we have pushed these tires a little bit too hard, but we kind of had to here. We wanted to get her into any sort of better position, I guess you could put it. So it is what it is. Maybe a double overtake here, we'll have to see. That would be quite amazing if we pulled it off. Unfortunately, we didn't. But with DRS now, we might get the Haas as well. Behrman currently running 7th. So it's not the worst season opener ever. Let's be perfectly honest. If Sano does win, we'll be very, very happy with that, of course. But as mentioned, we would have loved to do even better. But yeah, Contreras now running 8 seconds behind Verstappen, is catching up and definitely being quicker. Does get an overtake done. Sano goes over the line and starts the 27th season off with a win. Contreras currently ahead of Behrman and Ocon, although Behrman is coming back at us. That's a bit of a worry. And that was a little bit muddy, and we do get loose out there to
P8 for you, mate. P8.
To the end. But yeah, 8 seconds behind second place. Not terrible. But yeah, this is a pretty close grid. If you remove Sano, 25, basically top 10 within 10 seconds of each other, potentially. So yeah, our cars are quick. We should be seeing some domination this year. But just like last year, what is going to be the biggest threat is lockups, like we saw from Contreras. One lockup basically ruined her entire race. And if we have them in inopportune moments, they could be really, really bad. But impressively enough, Show here scored a podium for the Williams. We have Albon in 5th, Behrman in 7th. So I'm still looking forward to seeing how the teams themselves do develop this year. Driver Championship then, Sano is currently leading. We are 5 points ahead of Red Bull. But yeah, we'll have to see how, as mentioned, those teams do develop, because potentially they do still have chances to topple us, even if we have what is arguably a incredibly dominant car, because the driver stats are closing in on 99. But yeah, it is what it is. We do have a design done with the side pods. The second ATR period here, I'm a little bit unsure exactly where we want to place it. But what I am thinking is to invest even more into mainly the rear wing, I think. Get that one up and running a little bit harder. Smoothness, accuracy, and adaptability for Sano, perfect, except for the adaptability course. Smoothness and accuracy for Contreras. Can be very, very happy with that. If the team's performance at the recent Bahrain Grand Prix has influenced our confidence, Okay, so remember, we did have the board watching this race as well. Let's see how the board actually felt about that race. So they're delighted with Zakia because we won. But yeah, it's not great. Let's just put it like that. We also had a very, very small cost cap break here. They don't like. So it's fine though. For now though, the next thing here is again setting up the pit crew, but it's going to be pretty much the same. We're going to keep minimizing error chance. We're going to put the rest into pit stop time. Then we'll see how the pit stop times look come, well, the next month, I guess. But yeah, we'll do our best to just keep them low. I want to do at least Jeddah as well. Then we'll see how we stack up, because currently, as mentioned, the Red Bulls, every other car basically has a lot of development to go on. So I'm going to get the pit crew set up, then we'll head into Jeddah. We are ready to head into Jeddah. And remember, we still have the issue that started last time around, where we still have no capability of manufacturing. So we're actually very lucky that the incentives that we did have last race didn't actually influence us in the way that we needed to emergency manufacture. So at least we're saving a little bit of money that way. I'm going to do what I usually do here. Honestly, we don't really need these goals anymore, but habits do die hard. But we are going to go ahead here and jump directly into Saudi Arabian GP, have a look at how we perform, then make a decision on how we want to play the rest of this season. So qualifying went kind of what we expect with a 1-2. And we are going to get ready for, well, the race here at Jeddah. It's going to be a bit more of an interesting one because, again, one-stoppers are kind of the best you can do around here. And honestly, doing this with Contreras is kind of worrisome. Doing this is probably more reliable. But if we take a quick look here at the tires that we can expect, it is a very short pit lane. Performance-wise, 3/10 advantage, lasts for about 15 laps for the softs, and almost 5/10 for the medium to hard, which lasts for about 25. So if we can do medium to soft or soft to medium, that would be the best for us. But I don't think Contreras has what it takes to pull that off. She just doesn't have enough, enough tires. So what we could do instead is try and do something incredibly cheeky, which is a very aggressive medium run into then a hard run. And I think that is what we can do. Either that or we run the medium normal, but as you can see time-wise, it won't really make much of a difference. But if we run it on attack, we're probably going to have to pit here at the latest. Probably what we are going to have to do is something like this to make this work. So it's a bit of a hard choice here for Contreras, just purely due to the fact that it's hard to estimate when we should pit. And as you can see here, even if we just add a soft stint, it's going to bring things to be a lot quicker. So for Contreras, we're going to try a two-stopper. And for Sano, we're going to do potentially, I think, the same, but maybe try two soft tires because, again, we have far less deg with her, which means that, running anything that does have an effect with deg could be really beneficial. We can actually run these on standard, even aggressive, I think, if we really want to. But yeah, I think we'll do this. Two stoppers around here doesn't really work super well, I know, but I do love trying them out. It is theoretically quicker, and again, it's just going to depend on if we get the correct moves made. We'll have a quick look at this and see how we do. So we'll try this. Again, we'll experiment a little bit in these first races. We are starting 1-2. We have a Haas behind us, which is incredibly surprising. But it does kind of tell you that we actually have a grid right now that is very much equalized to some degree. Sano's currently running second. We have, that is the wrong move. Should still be deploying. Contreras, Sano still running 1-2. We have Verstappen in third. We have Behrman in the Haas, which again just kind of blows my mind a little bit, but he is there. And again, we're just kind of just completely shuffled at this point with Magnussen 20th, Leclerc 17th, Norris 9th, Stroll 10th. So it's a very, very interesting scenario right now, because considering Russell is 5th and Leclerc 17th, I would also assume that there is some parts shortage that is also influencing this a little bit. But yeah, we've had a good start so far. We are about, not too far ahead of Behrman. But Contreras is definitely flying at the moment, so hopefully she won't have any, bad incidents. And already you can kind of see here, just these few laps, 3 laps, and Sano already has a 2% tire advantage. So kind of gives you a bit of a idea of just how important smoothness actually is for keeping the tires alive. And we'll have a look once Contreras actually does pit, what Sano's tires does end up looking like. We can push these to 130 degrees around here, so no real concerns about that either. Behrman is currently keeping up with us, which is, again, a little bit surprising, but not really a big deal. Russell is holding up Verstappen, so we'll have to see if we can eke out the gap that we need to pit without too much traffic. We were struggling at Bahrain to do overtakes. Let's see if we can do a little bit better around this place. We're getting increasingly closer to Contreras' pit window, and as you can see, so far, we have a 10% advantage for Sano, who has been running behind Contreras and generally has been running at slightly higher temps. Contreras' degradation here is even harsher than we anticipated. Reality of the situation is that we probably should get her in on this lap, but you can kind of see the gaps that she has created, and this is where the question, where we have to answer a question. Is it better to stay on one more lap, try to create a bit of a bigger gap? Because if we pit now, we're going to come into the center of this DRS train. Now, a lot of these soft runners are going to have to pit fairly soon, so it's not really necessarily a big deal. So the answer is, do we push one more? I think we do. I think we have to try and give ourselves a little bit of a bigger chance to, say, get out ahead of Ocon, get out ahead of Norris. But we'll have to see if this gap ends up closing due to the fact that we are running now worn tires. But we are definitely going to get her in on this lap, put on those hard tires, and we are going to be pushing them fully. And what I expect here is that we actually might need to pit again around lap 32 even. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Currently, we are about 19.6, 19.5, so we didn't really lose anything time-wise. But the question is, again, where do we come out? We're still going to allow Sano to push these tires into the ground. She's a little bit further behind Contreras, which puts her in a bit more of a compromised position. But Contreras actually comes out in a beautiful, beautiful place, just right behind Behrman. And again here, Sano is going to be far more compromised, potentially behind Gasly, Show, Piastri, Stroll. You get the idea. She might be in a bit more of a worrisome position in terms of getting overtakes. But Contreras here, even on hard tires, should fly by Behrman. And that's also going to help with getting that confidence higher, which, again, is going to be important for our pace. So I'm very, very happy with how things are going. And again, Sano's degradation is kind of what we expect for someone that is close to, say, 80 smoothness. So looks good. Let's see exactly where we do come out here. It's going to be a bit of a question mark. Hopefully we don't have any errors. 2.1 seconds. Going to come out in 7th place. Not the worst place, right behind Verstappen. And again, none of the other cars here have pitted, and we're basically in the middle of it. So even if they do a one-stopper, we should hold a little bit of advantage. I'm so used to putting them to light that I keep on forgetting it's Sano to standard. But yeah, she should be able to come out of this ahead. Going to probably have a little bit of harvesting done. And then we'll overtake Verstappen. But yeah, looks very, very good so far. Let's see where we stand a little bit closer to the end. We unfortunately do have a bit of a negative situation right now. Not for our cars, but we have a safety car. And currently, it's actually fully a red flag. Let's have a look here and see what happens. So, Sargent had an incident. He ended up in the middle of the track. Verstappen is probably the biggest loser of that because he just pitted alongside Gasly and Albon. Sano's going to lose a little bit as well. No free pit stop. But we're going to have a bit of a tough choice on what we do for the rest of this race because, well, we're going to have to probably go to the end on whatever we decide to use. So that's going to make things a little bit rough, which is also one of the things you need to take into consideration around this track. But yeah, that's a bit unfortunate. Ferrari just barely snuck by. Yeah, I think there would have been enough room to move by, but it probably would have been a red flag. It's parked basically in the middle of the track, so it does make sense as unfortunate the situation is for us. So what I think we do for Contreras is, rather than starting her on this hard tire, I think we're still going to do 2 pit stops, use the soft tires. I think that is our best bet. And for Sano here, it's even a bit of a rougher situation because we only have 1 additional set of soft. Either we start on the hard and go full attack till, well, basically the end, almost. Or we go soft tire and do, 2 stops. And honestly, I don't know what would be best here. I think starting her on Usoft. I don't know. I think we just start on the hard and then we see what we can do with that strategy. It's going to be a slow tire, but again, potentially she can go till the end. So
Okay,
that
right
should be
flag,
fine.
right flag.
Bevan has been able to hold on to second, but yeah, as mentioned, Verstappen got kind of screwed over here, which is a bit unfortunate for him. But yeah, unsurprisingly, everyone who has a hard tire has elected to use a hard tire, so that's a really bad start from Sano. But as you can imagine, it's not going to be a terrible thing here for her to have this hard tire on. And I think even if we push it full attack, it might make it till the end, just barely. I still think just pushing it full attack, though, is going to be the correct play. Then we just, if we need to pit for a soft, I think it's going to be faster. So let's try and do that. But yeah, Sano had a bit of a terrible start here on that hard tire, unfortunately. Contreras running full attack on this soft tire is probably not the best we can do. I think we might need to just run standard and then again just switch on to another tire. I think that's the best we can do there. Gonna have to try and open up the gap as soon as possible. But yeah, running it on standard is probably what we're gonna have to. So yeah, this did throw a bit of a monkey wrench into the plans. I think we're gonna keep on moving Sano forwards as best as we can. It's gonna be difficult. And if we lose about 3% a lap, let's say that we keep that up until the end. We have 26 additional laps, 3%. That's a little bit too much. That is a little bit too much. 26 times 3 is 78, unless my math does, betray me. But that is less than 30%. And that is going to keep her in a bit of a danger zone. So if we run aggressive, I think that should be low enough that she'll have a little bit of tire towards the end. So I think that is fine. We're going to gamble on the one stopper here. Maybe even running standard while we're getting through that train could be a viable strategy. So let's go ahead here. We're going to do a little bit of harvesting. Slow things down a little bit here. Do a little bit of harvesting for Sano. And then, as I said, try and move it forwards while taking a little bit of care of these tires. Behrman is pretty quick. So that we're going to probably have a bit of a look at it and see just what makes it as quick as it is. But yeah, let's see if we can move Sano forwards. Let's see if Contreras strategy is going to pay off, or if I've been a bit of a silly goose. Currently, things are going fairly well here. We are getting close to the pit window for Contreras, and as you can see, she's actually eked out a good 19.5 seconds. So we'll allow her to do one more lap before we put her onto a new set of tires. But she should be quick enough here that she should come out ahead of, in this case, Stroll. Because as you can see, we have a few differences in position here. Asano actually gets overtaken by Pocher. So yeah, we're in a bit of a struggling position here where we are falling a little bit up, a little bit down. The DRS train is rough as well, so we'll have to try and close down to Pocher here and get by before he catches up to the DRS train, which I think is going to be doable. And it's a little bit difficult, clearly, to get by, but shouldn't be too much of a big deal. Contreras, let's see, comes out ahead of everyone. No big problems there. Sano gets the overtake done. And we're going to put it down to neutral, keep on attacking. And we'll see if we can get Norris before the end of this race. Just 8 laps remaining.
Now the Alpha Tauri.
So Sano is doing well. She's made her way up into 3rd place with a cheeky overtake on Stroll. And should probably get 2nd place by the end of this. What we are going to do, however, with Contreras is conserve a bit of fuel, harvest a little bit, and then get ready for the fastest lap attempt. But yeah, Sano is looking good here now for snatching that 2nd place, gets the overtake done into the final corner, and now it's just staying ahead of the Red Bull, which honestly shouldn't be too much of a big deal here. You can already see that we are extending that gap. And generally here, what I think is that the Red Bull is going to stay with us due to DRS, but not going to have the pace to overtake, which is beautiful. Now, for Contreras, we are getting very close now to doing the fastest lap attempt. We are going to turn everything to push, deploy, and attack. And we'll see what she can do. Purple in Sector 3 there, with that setting. Purple Sector 1, not a big surprise, really. And Norris is keeping up, but it's still looking good for us. Purple sector 2. Let's see what we said here in terms of fastest lap.
On keep an eye on the battery.
And we do get it there. Final lap, fastest lap, everything good. And unless she crashes, she should have no problem here with this last lap. The main concern is going to be Norris, who actually does set up an attack here. And that is a little bit worrisome, but we managed to get that position back. So the Red Bull definitely hasn't given up. He's on medium tires, we're on hard tires. But because of the amount of laps we've done, we basically, I'd say the tires are probably equal at this point. We used a little bit more of ours. If they weren't equal, if they were actually perfectly equal, we'd probably have the advantage. But yeah, it looks like Sano has got Norris's number and everything is sorted there. But yeah, even with that red flag throwing a little bit of a wrench in the plans, everything's looking good. Was a little bit worried about fuel there for a second. But Sano crosses the line in second place. Contreras gets first. And in the first problem-free race of this season, we do manage a 1-2. And I do believe that we are fairly dominating. Both drivers have, when they've won, been a good 20-25 seconds ahead of the rest. So it should be perfectly acceptable. Sano still leads. Contreras moves up to second. Norris, Verstappen. Then we have Behrman. But yeah, with that mentioned, we have the Haas, the Astons, Mercedes, McLaren. It's going to be pretty interesting season, just see how the other cars do develop. But yeah, I think we're going to end this episode with me taking a quick look at how the current car setup is. And then I'm going to hop over and have a look at what they want to announce with Create a Team for next year's game. We do have the sideboard design completed as well. So I'm going to go ahead here and just get that sorted as well quick. Every single one of the pieces did pass. So we're going to go ahead and, as I said, make another one of those development pods that we do like to make with airflow in the middle, drag reduction. We, again, sacrificing cooling, but generally here we're actually getting more because we're still getting expertise, even though it's less than we are getting for top speed and cornering. That is fine. Now, I'm going to allow time to pass here, mainly just so we can see how the other team's car are at this point. So currently our car is still first in everything. Cooling, we have sacrificed, so we have lost out in that. And if we take a look at the Red Bull, we are still a really, really dominating car. They have some new pieces now. They've lost 7 kilograms. We still have a fairly sizable advantage. Same can be said, I assume, for the Haas. It seems to be pretty quick this year. Yeah, it's not bad at cornering. Bad at top speed. Basically how we usually would make a Haas. Excuse me, first season. But yeah, unfortunately, that's all I had time for today. Sorry about that. I would like to add more. But we are dominating, and as long as we keep on dominating, I'm going to try and cut down these series a little bit. Basically, how much we show. I did try something last time around where I did summary as I went, but I think I'm just going to add everything together and add a voiceover for the next time we do this. So probably it should be a little bit more complete, a little bit better quality, but we'll have to see exactly how I end up doing it. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed, and hope to see you next time. Bye bye.